So we saw a huge downside move, not only in the market, but even more so on Nvidia because of the DeepSeek news from this weekend. So in today's video, I'm going to go over some of the technicals, some of the option flow, and then do a deep dive on the fundamentals because as you can see here, this is a pretty bullish close on the daily chart from today. And it seems like Wall Street's starting to realize DeepSeek is actually not as bearish as they originally thought, which I'll get into here in a second. First off, though, I wanted to start off over here. The first thing I actually want to talk about is this significant print we saw yesterday, a $20.3 million order, decent amount out the money. And then this was a call leap. So it expires next year, just about exactly 1 year from when they bought it. And it wasn't only this order that was super unusual just because of the premium. It was all of the orders we saw yesterday. And even today, it was overwhelmingly bullish. Like it was ridiculous the amount of bullish prints. You can see some of the significant ones here highlighted, like this 1.7 million, 1.1 million for the 180 strike, which is another call leap that was bought, 1.2 million. As you scroll up, there were a ton more, 1.1 million call. And as you can see with me scrolling here, there really weren't that many puts. Most of the red is just call sell orders, either for them trying to collect premium or them monetizing their calls that they bought during the dip. But for the most part, this was all super bullish flow, as you can see. And this is just the last 2 days alone. And we saw an incredible amount of overall flow, which was super interesting despite this downside move. But then again, today there was that large upside. So it was good to see that it was able to reclaim a previous support level, which then acted as a resistance, which is this over here. I'll draw a horizontal line at it right here. This can be used as a pivot, this 129 roughly level, mainly because this is where we found support on 3 daily candles over here. You can see all the wicks found support off of this. And then the wick from yesterday on Monday had the rejection off of this spot. But today we actually closed above it. So that is very bullish. And again, there were a couple reasons why this was such a significant upside move. I'm going to go into those right now. So as all of you know by now, DeepSeek has made waves with their R1 model. So they've cracked something special in the AI space. They managed to get models to reason step-by-step autonomously using pure reinforcement learning. So you don't have to rely on the vast supervised data sets you normally would. So DeepSeek charges just 14 cents per million input tokens. So that's definitely a lot less than OpenAI's, which costs about $15 per million input tokens. So significantly less overall, so making it far more efficient and more cost effective. But there is a catch, and it's often cited that the $6 million cost to develop all of this was not the actual cost. So they were likely lying in this case because the $6 million figure excludes the prior research expenses that they would have had to do all the time that they were developing it. So the groundwork laid by the extensive earlier work likely played a crucial role in the efficiency gains, and they're not accounting for that. So one analyst, Nathan Lambert, even speculated that there was anywhere between 500 million to 1 billion as the actual cost when you factor that other input in. So something to keep in mind. And the market, in my opinion, likely overreacted because of that. But as the market likes to do, it's very sentiment driven, especially in the short term, especially coming off of a long weekend. And add to that, they had way more GPU clusters than they originally reported. So here's a look at the stabilities of AI, talking about this a little bit more in depth.
You know, the Chinese labs, they have more H100s than people think. You know,
these are the highest powered Nvidia chips that they were not supposed to have.
Yes. My understanding is that DeepSeek has about 50,000 H100s, which they can't talk about, obviously, because it is against the export controls that the United States has put in place. And I think it is true that, you know, I think they have more chips than other people expect, but also on a go-forward basis, they are going to be limited by the chip controls and the export controls that we have in place.
Additionally, DeepSeek's R1 showcases how you can achieve high performance with less, but this doesn't mean demand for NVIDIA chips will drop, which is a key note, especially after NVIDIA wiped out, I think it was like $480 billion in its market cap in just one day, which is the single greatest drop in market cap ever in the history of the stock market, which is incredible. And the market market even realized that a bit today when we saw a pretty green close, all things considered, on Nvidia. So this fits nicely with Javon's paradox, which this economic theory suggests that increased efficiency leads to higher overall usage because the barriers to entry are lower, which would make AI more accessible. So as AI becomes more ubiquitous, the demand for Nvidia's GPUs will likely increase, contrary to the popular belief after the weekend rut that we saw. So definitely some key takeaway to keep in mind. And the big players do understand this, which is why America is spending $500 billion on the Stargate initiative, which Trump announced just last week. And even China is aware of this because of ByteDance, because they do want to step up their game to catch up to the US. One other important note, some analysts are already coming out and saying this is a generational buying opportunity. So here's what Dan Ives has to say from Wedbush.
Now let's talk about, Dan, the epicenter of all of this. And you've been a notable bull on many of these companies, many of the technologies that are at the center of the meltdown today. Does this worry you?
I mean, in my view, it's a top 3 buying opportunity that I've seen in the last decade for tech. And the reason I'm saying that, I spent the whole weekend talking to tech executives, CIOs, individuals that I know that are going down the sort of AI arms race or going through use cases. In no way of really 25 companies does this change their sort of plans, and a lot of these could be 7, 8, even upper 8-figure type budgets. I just continue to view this as it's a model, and a lot of the details I think still need to be vetted out in terms of 6 million. Do they actually have the H100s, how they actually built it? But this is something we're going to look back on, and I think the street and the market got this way wrong. In no way does it dent our bull thesis. That's what we've been telling clients really since the weekend. These are the times you own these names.
Bottom line, the industry is now racing towards more efficient AI, which requires cutting-edge hardware. So Nvidia remains at the forefront with the CUDA and their ecosystem, ensuring they're the go-to for any serious AI developer. Everything we're seeing play out right now is basically making AI a commodity. So we're moving past the generative AI and quickly moving into areas such as the self-driving cars, which we mentioned in our Tesla video last week, if you remember that, and then robots, which will require an enormous amount of compute. Nvidia's CEO even talked about this in his most recent presentation at the CES earlier this year. So this is a well-known fact by the big players in this space, and it's not going away anytime soon. Overall, this was a very strong close today, and some of those factors that I mentioned in the video earlier definitely played out today with bigger institutions starting to load, as we saw with those large calls from earlier, which I can go back to. Even just today alone, regardless of the large call order we saw yesterday, the $20 million one, there still were quite a bit of bullish prints. And not only that, if you go over to here to flow overview actually and go to the last 2 days, you can see there was over $700 million worth of bullish premium. That is insane to have in only 2 days. There's 3,290 orders. Like, this is stuff you don't even see in a week, a pretty active week as well. So this is just 2 days alone. Pretty incredible, all things considered. Really haven't seen much bearish flow across the board on Nvidia. It's just been mostly bullish. And as you can see here, a couple pretty significant orders like this $1.9 million for the 138 strike. This is, I'll call Leap, which you see in a lot of these further dated orders, which is a critical component and something I'll get into in a second. Over here, another one of those call Leaps, 1 million. This one here, pretty short dated put. Likely they were trading this just because it is the weekly expiration. So intraday trade, the most likely culprit. But again, these are further dated for the bull side. So they are more bullish on the longer view at the moment. And then as we scroll down over here, another 1.5 billion. This one about at the money. Again, call Leap. And then a lot of call sells around here. And then as you can see, as we go a bit lower, 6.1 million for the 125 strike. This was out the money at the time that they bought this, and this appreciated pretty nicely going into the close. Also another call leap. So a lot of call leaps across the board just from today, and even yesterday with that large $20 million call that we saw. So these bulls are reaching for further dated contracts. They believe this is something that will pass by and can result in a bullish outcome for Nvidia here in the future. So very interesting times in the market. With volatility brings opportunity, and definitely has been a lot of opportunity the last 2 days, and there will be more opportunity to come.